So hi, I'm Laura Aucott. I'm an Associate Director for HSE Recruitment and Executive Network Group.
Hi, my name's Parmenter. I'm the Deputy Head of HR at Brightwell Pension Services.
Hi, I'm Trudy, Clements, I am the Group Health and Safety Manager for the Audley Group.
So my name is Melissa Mark-Joyce and I'm currently the Vice President of Health and Safety for Smiths Group PLC.
So I started out in the company as a trainee, came in with absolutely no experience of recruitment or health and safety whatsoever. I was kind of drawn to the industry because it felt like something where I could use a lot of my skills, which was building relationships, chatting to people. I'm quite process driven, very organised, and that kind of all tied into it. I chose HSE Recruitment to work for because the leadership felt very much my style. It felt supportive. It felt like they were a company that were going to give me lots of opportunities to develop as a leader and as a woman in industry.
I've been working in the HR industry now for coming up to 20 years. I was an administrator within a HR team working predominantly on recruitment. Over the years, I have expanded my experience and now work in a leadership position within the pensions world. I've noticed a lot of changes and experienced a lot of changes over those 20 years, particularly around the professionalism of HR and how we are now seen and interact with the business. We very much have a seat at the table as a value add, which has increased dramatically over the last few years as the world has changed. And the world of work is continuing to change. HR are having a lot more influence.
I started in health and safety. I worked at a local authority, my local authority where I live, as a clerical assistant, and I was writing up the reports for their environmental health officers, which included the visits involving health and safety. There came an opportunity where I could train up in the health and safety team. So that's my first introduction to health and safety way back in 1996. I trained up with the local authority, used to go out doing inspections in my local borough, and then I went into the private sector.
Most of my career has been in the oil and gas industry, so I worked for BP for 20 years. I started off in Trinidad, and then very early in my career, I had the opportunity to work in the North Sea, working on offshore platforms and rigs. And I think that really set the foundation for me in the value of health and safety in the industry.
I think mentorship and networking is hugely important. It's basically the basis of everything that we do here. When I joined the company, the reason I picked them was, like I said, because of the leadership and because I felt they could mentor and support me in the way that I needed. Strangely, all my mentors have always been men, or maybe not that strange because recruitment's quite a male-dominated field. So I think they gave me a really good perspective of what it felt like to become a leader in the industry. And then the women's side, I kind of figured out a little bit more by myself as we went along. But the mentorship, was really invaluable. They gave me lots and lots of structure, lots of opportunities to grow, to try new things. They always really trusted me to do things differently and do things the way that I thought they could be done.
I've encouraged and mentored and just recently quite a few people to get their fellowship that I've networked with for many years, and they've gone, "You've got your fellowship, Trudy, can you help me get mine?" Especially because the grades have just changed and the process with IOSH has just changed. So, I'm quite proud of the people who've come through that journey, because when I did my fellowship, it was only sort of like 1% of females that were fellows of IOSH, and that's increasing, and it makes me proud to see that is happening.
So mentorships and networking from my own personal perspective has been really important throughout my career. I've never had an official mentor relationship with anyone, but I've always ensured that I've kept in touch with both male and female leaders that I've worked with within the HR space as well as the business space to continually understand the development of the world that I'm in. And also to use as a sounding board. I find it very, helpful to discuss my ideas, my thought process, especially when it comes to career moves. with individuals who have maybe, they're a little bit further ahead in their careers, and can really help me to kind of, weigh up the pros and cons of certain decisions that I need to make.
I am a deep believer in mentoring, sponsorship, and networking. And it was something I've always been involved in whilst I was in BP. But then when I moved to the UK, it was even more important. And the value of it was emphasized tremendously. And so I'll explain a bit. So one of the good things with BP and companies like that, they have strong programs for leadership development. So I was fortunate to be part of their leader development programs. I had mentors, coaching. I knew I had sponsors, etc. And that was really valuable. And it gave me the opportunity to have the roles I had in the company. Diversity is important, but inclusion and inclusivity is the absolute critical key. And that's just from personal experience as well. I think it's easy to have diversity at your table, representation at the table, etc. But it has to be about inclusion and people's voices being heard and listened to.
When we look at the landscape over the years, I think that's changing immensely. There's lots of women in leadership roles now. We've had, even looking at IOSH, the last presidential teams and the chief execs have been females. There's a lot more female presence on the senior structure teams. For me personally, I look at some of my peers and people who work in the health and safety spectrum, and there's a lot of senior roles that involve females.
I feel it's wider than just male and female. So, it's about fostering that inclusive approach and a diversity of thought, and something that, in the business I'm in at present, is really important to us, is that diversity of thought, that people come from different backgrounds. It's not just whether you're male or female, but the socioeconomic background, all of that adds to, it gives a different perspective. It gives a rounded perspective on the world and what we're trying to do as a business.
So, as I said, when I came into recruitment, I think it was really, really male dominated at the time. Interestingly now, it's not. The split is very, very even. It's kind of 50-50 male to female. So the culture has just kind of grown with us. We had to do quite a lot of work on the culture. So that's been a really, really big journey for us, and one that we continue to go on. We're always asking for feedback from staff and colleagues to say, how do they feel about the culture? What can we do to help them feel more included, to feel part of the company, to feel part of the vision?
I'm not about agreeing with me. It's like, if you have a different view, I want to hear that, because I don't know everything. We all have different perspectives. We all come from different backgrounds and experiences. And it's really important that we take the time to hear those, because it makes a huge difference.
So, that's a really, really big question. I think there's lots and lots of things that can still be done. Change is happening, and it's great, particularly in the safety world. We are seeing the tide start to turn and more women get into leadership roles, but there are still big opportunities for us to look at making the industry more inclusive. So things like being more open about salaries. We do the really regular remuneration reports so that people can see where there is a gender pay gap, and we can start to make some strides to address that.
I think the biggest change that can happen is that there's just an acceptance, and we don't have to keep talking about women around the table when it comes to boards and setting targets. Yes, that's always going to happen, but I'd like to see at some point in my career that it just be normalised. I was thinking the other day about how my 10-year-old son interacts with his female peers at school, and that is so different to the way I interacted with my peers. And I feel like the world is shifting, the world is moving, it's becoming more acceptable, and women do have a voice. And I'd just like to see that continue to the point where we don't need to have these conversations anymore.
Here in the UK, I've been part of One Wish, which has focused on diversity and inclusion in the health and safety profession. I was also the chair of a program called Young Women's Energized when I lived in the US. And that was part of the Women's Energy Network that focused on diversity in the energy industry. And that program, Young Women's Energized, was around encouraging young ladies to promote their education and careers in STEM associated fields. So it's also about the mentoring, the training, the development programs, but then it has to be shown through the opportunities and the access that we are given.
To be yourself and to never stop learning. You know, the world is changing at such a fast pace. And it has done over the last 5 to 10 years of my career. The way I operate as a HR professional now is very different to the way I operated 10 years ago. And I've had to continually learn and develop. And I think anyone coming through the HR space, you have to just be open to learning, but also be true to yourself.
Be fearless in terms of if you are interested in an area or want an opportunity to throw your hat in. Networking, mentoring is very important, and just do it, because if you're passionate about something and you want to make a change, you've got to start. And just being concerned about, am I going to be perfect? Is this going to work out? Those things are limiting factors.
Say yes to everything. I think as women, we kind of do anyway. We do give ourselves a lot to the company and to our friends and to our family. But I've found that by not listening to my self-limiting beliefs and just jumping at opportunities has been really, really useful.
My advice to anyone would be yourself, look after your teams and they'll look after you.